This particular lock is rapidly becoming my favourite. It's the lock for vans. It's an incredibly well made lock to very high tolerances. This is the Euro version, and you can see because it's such a short lock, there's only space for 5 pins, although normally you would get 6 in these lock for vans locks. And what I've been doing is I've been picking this using the Abbey Lock Tools 2-in-1 pick. This is currently listed on their website at £55 plus VAT. There are many ways of opening this lock, and some of them are quite sophisticated and expensive to buy. But this £55 tool is not only fun to use, but it also does the job as well and gets the lock open. It's quite a logical process for picking this, so this isn't necessarily going to be a tutorial, but I just wanted to show what I do anyway. There have been various other videos put up which effectively say exactly the same thing. But what I'm going to do is just pick the tension up, and I'm just going to move the picking tip through the lock, and you can see that it's obstructed by a pin there. So I'm just going to nudge that pin until the picking tip goes over it. And then we'll go back. Again, we're obstructed by 3, 2, we're being obstructed by 1. There we go. And now, as you can see, the picking tip now moves through the lock without being obstructed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for pins that are binding, and let's start on pin 5. And if we look at pin 5, if I put the pick on top of it, effectively the picking tip is meeting resistance, and it feels very solid to the touch. So I'm going to push pin 5 down. There we go. Pin 5 has gone down, and it clicked and released. There's no rotation on the core, but it has clicked and released. So let's go to 4. Now 4 isn't bound at all, and you can see that when I turn the tip and let go, it bounces back. That normally tells me that that particular pin has been picked, and it's somewhere near the shear line. There's 3. There's a little bit of bounce on 2 there, not a lot, but there's still enough there to tell me that 2 is actually a very deep cut on the key. Let's go to 1, and there we go. Now we can see 1's got some bounce. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now on a lot of locks this would be open, but because this is made of such high tolerances, the security pins inside here do a really good job of preventing you from picking it. So what's happened is the pins are jumbled very close to the shear line, and the various chamfers and features on the security pins are now coming into play and just stopping this lock from opening. So whenever you reach this stage, or whenever I reach this stage, I then start to work the lock backwards and forwards, just testing each pin one at a time. And what you're doing is you're effectively doing little nudges and knocking each of those security pins closer to where they need to be on the shear line. And one of the fun things about this lock is it may be ready to open, and it may just be balanced on 1 pin, but it doesn't tell you. There's no feedback at this stage. It's just a case really of going backwards and forwards and working each of those pins until the lock is ready to yield on the shear line. So I am just doing that. And you could be forgiven at this stage for thinking that one of these pins has been overset, and that's what's preventing it from opening. But actually that's not the case at all. This is just a case of being patient and getting all of those little chamfers and security features on the pins lined up so that the lock will yield, and it does that without warning. So let's just carry on moving backwards and forwards through this lock, tapping the top of each pin as I go. And what will happen is sooner or later one of these pins will just nudge that last bit into position, and it will then allow the lock to be picked open. But you do have to be patient with this, and you do have to keep on trying backwards and forwards. Some of them pick open really quickly, and some of them, like this one, will take a little bit of more work. But it is literally just a case of one pin being very close, but not close enough. I just got a little click there on 4 that I haven't had before. 3, 2, 1. Let's go back to 5. And another little click there on 4. 4 is a really deep set pin there. So I'm just working this lock, working these pins. They all feel pretty much set, but one of them is just holding on somewhere. And completely out of the blue, without any warning, this is going to open. And there we go. So yeah, that was very typical of this lock. You get it into a position where you think it's everything is set, and then you just need to work those pins backwards and forwards, and it must be set in very, very small increments of the tops of those pins inside the lock while you're doing that. But it does eventually, as you can see, yield, and now we've got the lock open.